See the smoke, watch it as it grows. And the choice, I'll understand all the life of a great man. Don't fear his voice or the look in his eyes as he steals everything he can and says he can understand how to live with the land. When you see chimneys in the haze and you think of the better days, can it be that someone has taken away what we used to hold in our hands? Everything that they can use till they leave us with only shells of the land, only shells of the land. Come alive. There's so much we can do. Come alive, come alive. There's so much we can do. Come alive, come alive. There's so much we can do. Come alive, come alive. There's so much we can do. Come alive, come alive. Come alive, come alive. There's so much we can do. Come alive, come alive. Come alive, come alive. There's so much we can do. Well, we're here in Tamworth to investigate some claims of archaeological discoveries and mysteries of the outback. And they include many spectacular claims, including visits from aliens as well as visits from Egyptians. The Egyptian
Hey,
visits...
U-turn here, Rob.
Oh, the U-turn.
U-turn, U-turn.
Yes.
We're here to re-examine. We've returned. We've been here before. To re-examine the claims of archaeologist Rex Gilroy that Australia has been visited in the old world.
On your Rex.
By Egyptians, Chinese, Phoenicians. Let's see what the relics have to yield. Straight, sorry.
Right here?
The other right.
Left.
That's left. Alright, as you can see, we are well skilled in scientific methodology and the rigorousness of our definitions. So we are going to apply
Archaeologists need to be able
the
to find things
holistic,
they don't.
the holistic research information and RAM
Uh-oh, dead end.
credibility test.
Look, it's tense. Look,
What's going on
Behold,
here?
tense,
that's,
tense.
That's for
We
all
have
the
to
country.
This
Country
is
western singers.
This is for country and western music because we are after all in Tamworth.
Along the glum
And Tamworth is where it all happens, in country music. But we ourselves are not great lovers of country music, so we didn't
Country road, take me home.
I wonder
to the place I belong. Da 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 da.
I wonder if Rex has a fossilised guitar.
Fossilized guitar. And a Stetson hat. And an old pair of cowboy boots that's got prints of panda bear feet on the bottom. Sticks in the mud.
He has a number of theories which I think warrant a mention before we meet Rex, which is...
Don't spend too much time in the Loch Ness Monster swimming down the river.
Yeah, that there is a Loch Ness Monster in Sydney River. And that there are Black Panthers on the loose running around the
Black
place.
Panthers.
Before they get supported by the Australian government.
And
inciting revolution.
Yeah, me thinking we're called kangaroos.
And thylacines more than 2 meters long, which is pretty big, I think, for a
Yeah, me thinking there
thylacine.
were kangaroos all along.
And monsters of various sorts,
Oh, here we go. We're
great
here.
4
keep
meter
going,
tall
just
cavemen.
Okay,
And-
slow down a bit. And keep going, rolling. And there is his house there, number 16.
Right, all right. This is the house
That's
of
the house. I don't see Heather's car. So
historian,
we butter Rex up.
archaeologist, and adventurer Rex Gilroy.
And we're rolling.
Well, this is our initial investigation of Rex Gilroy and his wife, and Michelle, his daughter, I presume.
Is that what it was?
He's somewhat extraordinary. There are some very strange family dynamics going on, and his office and center of investigation is not what you'd call extremely high-tech and polished. But that is not a problem in itself. The man could be a genius whose computer is his brain and his mind and his unique ability to sort things out. But he explained to us that he doesn't like the country festival. He didn't explain whether it was because he doesn't like country music or whether he doesn't like the city people who come in to the country festival. His wife certainly doesn't like the city people who come into the festival. And he seems to have something of a subjugative relationship with his wife, you could say, who is a nurse and appears to be involved in nursing training with the degrees and certificates on her.
She wears the trousers and the paper.
And she'd just come home from work and he ran to the door and greeted her and didn't want her to be displeased in any way. And she seemed to be rather stern with him. And stern with her daughter, who
He seemed to be also
has a crippled leg and walks with a caliper and is very bored in Tamworth.
He's got no grey hair, but he's got
the previous
nervous,
places they live.
He's got a nervous disposition. Extremely so, but
He's
got
very
no grey
anxious
hair.
and he's definitely been
He's got
through
no grey hair.
he's definitely been on medication in his life, and doubtless his wife has advised his treatment. And I can't imagine that a nurse from a very conservative establishment which views UFOs and believes in UFOs as being mad.
And then
Would
how
not-
about the building of the pyramid? Oh, jet Lord, what a lot of rubbish, you know, stuff like that. It could have been something from a planet of the Pleiades or something, what a lot of garbage.
So
Well, I mean, you don't just plonk pyramids around the place, you know.
And he was very
Who said the Egyptians built the pyramids anyways? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're into this, you'd certainly consider all theories, and you'd have an open mind about things. I mean, you'd have to have a backup. I mean, you'd have to have a theory behind why your opinion. You know, he doesn't, man. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have a
He
theory.
hasn't integrated all the various viewpoints.
But I'd say he and his family are living a somewhat impoverished lifestyle for great discoveries with priceless millions of dollars worth of treasures, which indeed you'd have if you had a few Phoenician heads and Egyptian treasures. And he seems to make his deductions about the certainty of his stories entirely on whether they're his opinion versus whether they're somebody else's contrary opinion, in which case that person is an idiot and hasn't checked his stuff out. But it does sound as if a few people have checked his stuff out and said that they're rubbish, but nobody has really said that he has deliberately created a hoax.
One researcher has, and that's Paul White. Paul White has been published in Exposure magazine, and
Causing Rex Gilroy.
well, Paul White changed his tune as well. He initially was involved with the hieroglyphs in Gosford, and he studied them for 4 years and was involved with an Aboriginal elder who showed him to the site and who took him through the meaning of the glyphs and the relationship that the Aboriginal people had with the Egyptians. And that was all very interesting. But initially, one theory the research began, this was the Egyptians were lost in Australia, which seems like a bit of a projection of their own ignorance onto the Egyptians, which I don't buy for a minute. Yet it's this Aboriginal elder who is showing Paul White to these glyphs, taking him to these glyphs as if, you know, some evolutionary step that Paul White will be mentored by an Aboriginal elder. I call up 4 years later Paul White and say I'm going to be speaking to Rex Gilroy about the hieroglyphs in Gosford. And Paul White, fresh from a documentary series about Oz anomalies and Oz archaeology, says, don't speak to Rex Gilroy for a minute. You know, you'll see his plaster cast in his shed where he's made his Yowie footprints.
That's what I think.
But also, and also though, he said by his own admission that it took him 4 years to work out the glyphs were hocus pocus after having an Aboriginal elder supposedly guiding him to these glyphs and taking him through it, and then working with universities and stuff. So he says it took him 4 years, and I don't think something like that should take 4 years to work through. Whether we're coming at a point of time where we can work it out pretty, you know, we're closing in on it. But I was very suspicious of Paul White himself, and his position is this sort of, and they seem to be jousting for the position of the head alternative godfather guru of forbidden archaeology in Australia in a way.
Well, you know, although Rex might be a delusional fool, it doesn't mean to say that he hasn't heard it in the pub that they're there and saw it there, and because he's a fool, he accepted it.
Yeah.
And it might be true, but maybe it does mean to say that the footprints, or you know, and all that stuff's true too. I mean, I think that.
Yeah, I think there is some relics to be extracted of worth. I mean, even if only a few of them have to be authentic to blow, to sort of go, hey, look, you know, there's something came here, and I think that will prove to be the case. It's a matter of sifting through it and presenting it in such a way that
Certainly, yeah, we don't
lose the sight of the possibility of very real old world visits to Australia amongst all the politicking that's
exactly. This may
dominating
be
at the moment.
a far greater, well, it is, if there is any effort to delude the public or delude us, that in fact these things are authentic when they know, if they know that they're not, and they have sat there and dug holes in their back garden and poured plaster into it and said it's the plaster cast of Bigfoot, then we have a right and indeed an obligation to expose them for being such naughty folk. Especially when we're living in a society where belief in UFOs and trippy ideas about belief in UFOs can get you locked up in psychiatric hospitals and have the key thrown away. So it's quite a serious thing that people don't take away ideas of a different history to the widely propagated British version of history. Those people are presenting those other views. If they all get lumped together as being weird conspiracy theories with Rex Gilroy, and people who all think that Aboriginals came from outer space, well, I think it's really important that we do expose this analysis. But I think that we might be, if you look at Piltdown Man, you know about Piltdown Man? No. Piltdown Man was a hoax perpetrated in England for the missing link, and it was the jaw of a human being combined with the, I think it was the upper head of a orangutan with the jaw of a human being, or the other way around. And Piltdown Man had the scientific community hoax for quite a while, and they were celebrated, the discoverers of Piltdown Man, but it turned out that it was an elaborate hoax, and it's quite a serious thing, scientific forgeries. But a person who's not got an academic qualification doesn't risk the
barring.
Yeah, well, they're not. A scientist who's qualified risks losing their qualification if they're caught doing scientific forgery, and yet we're aware of lots of medical areas where that's happening in psychiatry on a large scale. So I reckon it's all a matter of scientific investigation.
It's quite far, this place, isn't it? How many kilometres, you reckon? He's willing to drive his own car there on Sunday.
What's the story with the wife, Heather?
That's what I'm wondering.
Heather would not give me the telephone to speak to Rex yesterday evening. Would not consider the possibility of us just coming over and picking up Rex and going out to the museum.
It's as if she's
the guardian,
preserving her interest in this.
Yeah.
You know?
She funds Rex a lot though. See, Rex isn't making a lot of money from the publishing of his articles. I mean, she's the only one working in the family. I'm not sure what Rex is classified as down at the DSS or Centrelink as it is. But it's a very intriguing portrait going on here. Keep a bit of distance, Ron.
Huh?
Keep a bit of distance, alright?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what. Here we go. Here you go. She turned left. There it is. Rex Gilroy.
Rex Gilroy's Butterfly World and Museum. Ag Museum.
Catch on the way around.
There.
Look at the lovely fly.
Have you spoken to Rex about butterflies? About butterflies and an area of my particular expertise. I know he eats about butterflies.
I don't know. I'm not well good.
Fossils, rocks and butterflies, mowers and rakes, hoes and cars, skulls, insects, moths, rabbit traps and cultivators, trucks and wagons, hecklers, rocks and crystals and photos, steam engines, rollers, ditches, chaff cutters, threshing and shearing machines. Goodness gracious me. Horse implements and combines. This is certainly a museum to beat all museums. If it also had Phoenician and Egyptian relics and evidence of visits from outer space.
Maybe he thinks it's going to be economically viable, this museum, in the future.
Paleontologist saying something's a lump of rock because I wouldn't donate it to them, and you get the journalists ringing them up and for a story on it, and they say his dinosaur skull's only a lump of rock. Well, why do they want it? And he was a friend of mine, and they were both advertising an article in the local paper in Blue Mountain, or Blue Mountain Advertiser, and away from the Australian Museum. Said they'd have to be donated to the government collections before they could be verified.
Right.
Evidently, it's a very great honour to be invited to donate material.
Where's the butterfly set?
What is this?
No. It was always up the back. Rex just has a collection of his because this is 40 years old.
Right.
This collection like this has been set out like this. Oh, well, Rex had a display when I first met him, that was like 25, 30 years ago. But we've had it set out exact sort of in cases quite like this. Probably since about 1983. And basically the whole, as you see these butterflies now, it took him, even though they were already set out, and in cases, display cases, he set them out differently. He set them out differently. It took him 3 months working, usually at night because he found it easier to work at night, for about 3 or 4 days a week, to do all the typing and the setting up and that sort of thing. He couldn't do it anymore, you know, sort of because of the fingers became so tender and sore with handling the pins.
And who had made the boxes, the cases?
Some of the cases were made by my dad, but these other ones, which were all, they're all pretty well universal, but these came from Australian Entomology Supply.
All right. Where are they?
They're in
Sydney?
well, they were in Sydney, but they're up in the north of the state, up around this way.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know that there was. I remember looking off the one.
Yeah, no, they moved probably since we've been up here about 4 years ago.
Right, yeah.
They're up at Alstonville near Lismore. And I did ring the chap the other week and asked him for a catalogue, but he hasn't come up with it yet.
So do you have connections with other butterfly collectors throughout the world? Or
I
how
think Rex did have, I'm not sure that
Doesn't
he
have
has
them
now.
anymore?
No, because we've let a lot go. He actually had a few in the Polish, in Poland and places like that,
Right.
that he's lost contact. And he's lost contact with because he's not connecting with them so much.
Yeah.
You know, he's sort of gone to more the sort of look at them type thing.
What about here? I read in your book, because I had a little bit of a look at that.
Yeah. These ones, the Madagascar dayfly. When we first started buying them,
Right.
from Australian butterfly company.
What was Australian butterfly company?
Australian butterfly company, they were in Sydney, I don't know whether it's still there.
Right. And they were companies that
And they were sort of-
collected butterflies from all over the
They
world
were
and
sort
sold
of
them to the
purchasing and
countries.
selling, yeah.
But it says, gee,
But we
that's-
work, but
that's a
now
bit
you
of a
can't
crap.
buy them.
Oh, now they'd be, they're
Because
protected now, I think, anyway.
I think so, because I couldn't understand why, when they were so prolific, all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
suppose people were.
But
yeah.
apparently there was a lot of land in Madagascar, which is only a smallish
Yeah, it's a
island,
small island. Yeah.
and the rainforest virtually came right up to the town
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of clearing.
Hmm.
Rainforest virtually came right up to the town
Yeah.
boundaries.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of clearing,
Hmm.
and they've cleared all the
Yeah,
all
well, the habitat has been destroyed because everybody wanted this particular dayfly moth, which is one of the rarest. Well, it became very, very rare because the dayfly moths, most moths are dull-colored,
Yeah.
and this was an exceptional moth because it's got these amazing colors. Of course, there are not that many of them left now because they were selling them.
Even the
Very cheap
Australian
price, 20 cents
Uranid
each,
moth. Yeah, we were actually getting it. The Uranid moth.
We don't know our council.
They're really trying to
It's one step behind Bankstown Council, which was impeached a while back. The Blue Mountains Council was kicked out of office by an administrator for 3 years. Then when he left, the same bludgers got re-elected again. The suckers never learn. And I'm just regarded as an eccentric down there for my theories. And it only takes one lousy alderman down there that remembers me, and I know who it is. He's from the side, looking straight at me. And I dug it out, and that's what it was.
Right, this one.
It's flattened geological distortion through pressure. It's crushed it. You've got the right.
So when did you say you
Yeah.
found this one?
Up in Mudgee.
When?
June 4th.
Not this year.
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah. And the right eyebrow ridge is missing, but when you get it upright, you've got a long, narrow skull.
Well, how are you certain that this is a Homo erectus? And what
Well,
makes
it's
you
been squashed
say?
at the start, but when you look at the skull formation, say, comparing it to that one over there, that's a cast of one from Asia, of course. Well, you can see the thick eyebrow ridge. In fact, where the
No, I can't say.
geological pressure crushes. See, what happens is in this form of fossilisation is mud fills inside the skull and the cranium, right? It happens to dinosaurs, kangaroos.
Yeah, I've been studying paleontology for years.
And what happens is, well, geological pressures gradually, well, as it's solidifying, it starts to, of course, if it's under a lot of pressure, the geological pressures crush them, so you're very lucky to get a decent endocast. But reconstructing it on paper, I've come up with a Homo erectus that is long, narrow, dolicephalic skull as against the round brachycephalic modern humans. But what you've got to allow for is this squashed out here, you tuck this in here, that there, and you've got some of the outer skull still there, of course. This is the actual internal brain here, that's just where the mud filled the inside of the skull and the cap's broken away, and that's already fossilised. But when you compare it with the Homo erectus,
so what are you saying that you think that that's the inside cast of a skull?
Well, there's part of the inside, but the outside is preserved as well. You sometimes get the whole skull just turned to solid rock. Like this one here, it's been crushed on its right side and a rock had fallen inside the skull there perhaps, and you've got a gap there. Otherwise you've got strata lines in there. And you've got the thick eyebrow ridge. But that, when it's
hold on, where are you saying is this, what are you saying that this is the two eye sockets, is it?
There's one there and one over here. But when you reconstruct it, allowing for distortion, you come up with a, in this case, a Wajak man, which is a different type to, say, the Solo people. Solo is more modern human. In fact, I'm going to put some new sketches in there, because I didn't have enough room there. I'm going to take these Dawn tools out and rearrange it shortly, so I've got more room for extra sketches. But I'm going back to this spot to see what I can find.
Right. Well,
a day or two, but
how do you deal with how sceptical are you yourself?
Oh well, I'm
about
sceptical
about you, because I mean, obviously, when I was collecting, butterflies, I always wanted to discover new species. Certainly, as I discovered, like I've got quite a big fossil collection myself and stuff that I've been collecting, and I'd love to discover fossils. And I have to say that I found 1 trilobite on the beach in England when I was 7, and I lost it, and I've never found a fossil in my life.
Well, I've got 3
but if I found something like, this, sorry.
I've got 3 gynandromorph butterflies in the collection. I didn't know I had them. In each case over the years, they just looked alike, and I just set them out, not even taking a second, pinned them away, and years later discovered what I had.
Yeah, but did you? There were not ones that you ones that you caught yourself though.
But I caught them, yeah. The ones I caught, yeah.
With the butterflies, I really know which butterflies I'm catching. But what I'm saying is, with something like this, okay, say you found this in the ground, okay. If you found in the ground, if I found a rock like that in the ground, and it is of course a rock, which you're saying is a fossil, I'd have to be very skeptical as to whether it is a fossil at all, let alone whether it's a Homo erectus, because as you can see, there's huge differences between that you say is a cast of Homo erectus,
that's a better preserved specimen.
Well,
that's a cast.
Well, it's not even a specimen; it's a model.
Yeah.
So they're models of things. You've got a number of models of footprints.
Bought them from the Australian Museum,
right. Well, if the Australian Museum is selling models of